Let's talk about retention. This time of the year, a lot of schools and teachers start mentioning that kids might have to be retained if they don't improve their reading, writing, spelling, and make passing grades. Generally speaking, I do not recommend retention as an appropriate response to dyslexia. Why? Well, doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. Just by doing first grade again, kids with dyslexia will not automatically, magically become strong readers. They need much more. They really need specialized intervention to address their weak areas. They don't just need to do first grade again. Additionally, retention is associated with a lot of negative outcomes. Kids who are retained are much more likely to drop out of school. They're much more likely to have long-term negative impacts to their self-confidence. So it is not something that we should do as our first response to a kid struggling. However, there are some circumstances where it does make sense, and ultimately that is the decision of the family. I think some situations where it makes sense, especially makes sense, is if a child is quite young for their age, and by retaining, it might help them academically, but also socially. Some things that should be done if you're considering retention. First and most importantly, the child has to have intensive, specialized help with their dyslexia. If you just do the grade again with just the basic schoolwork, they're not going to improve. They really have to have that intensive approach. Secondly, if it's possible, you might consider seeing if they could switch to a different school and do that same grade at a different school. I think that really helps to minimize the negative social impacts because no one knows if the child's repeating or not. They can kind of reinvent themselves, and I've seen that work out pretty well for families. If you are getting a letter that says your child needs to be retained, my number one recommendation is to act fast and to call someone who can give you some specialized help. A lot of improvement can be made between January and August. So if you use all that time to get your kid on track, hopefully they'd be improved enough to not have to be retained in the next grade.